I went to the jiu-jitsu gym that never drills. Everyone says you have to drill to get good at grappling, but at Standard they're questioning that idea. They never drill yet have world-class competitors. So I took a class there to figure out what they're doing instead, and interviewed members of the gym to learn more about this new way of training jiu-jitsu. Usually a class starts with an instructor showing a technique, but Greg didn't give any moves for us to drill. Instead, he gave a game for us to play. These games are meant to teach concepts in jiu-jitsu without the use of drilling. This first game was all about getting and staying past the feet. For this game, I was paired up with one of Standard's best black belts, DeAndre Corbet. He's gotten gold at 4 ADCC Opens this year, but as you can see here, he's not trying to pass. He just wants to stay past my feet and in front of my knees for as long as possible. While the top person can't win this game, the bottom person's goal is to get up. And once they do, we switch. I could already tell this was not your average jiu-jitsu class. After 10 minutes of playing this game, we took it a step further with the next game. Now the goal of the top player is to get chest to chest. So in this, we're not only trying to get past the feet, but also the knees. When I was on bottom, this game made me focus on keeping my knees inside, so he couldn't control my hips or get to my chest. The theme of getting closer and closer to the pass continued in the next game, where we started in half guard, with the hips controlled. Now in this one, the rules changed, and the only way for the top person to win was by submission. And in this, I was able to see how advanced DeAndre's subs were. So far, the approach seemed interesting, but was it really a replacement for drilling altogether? In the next game, we started in Turtle with the intention of breaking your partner's base so you can take their back. Greg doesn't show a specific move to do this. Instead, he just gives you that goal of breaking their base and allows you to be creative with the solution. I really had to problem solve more with this method and think of different ways to stop DeAndre from just standing up. Like here where I used my feet to try breaking out of his base. Also, I got choked out a lot. That was the end of the advanced class, and next was the competition class. So far, I really liked the training. It let me work a lot of areas of my game, but I'm a purple belt, and Greg was doing this style of training for all levels. Could a white belt really learn jiu-jitsu by never drilling? So I interviewed Noah, a blue belt, came up under this approach to learn more.
You've never taken like a traditional jiu-jitsu class? You never drilled?
No. This was the first gym I ever took a class at.
Despite never drilling, I've seen that he's very technical. And what he said next made me understand why we were playing those games in the first place.
You can't be good at arm bars because arm bar is just a submission, where a submission is made up of multiple skills. You can't get good at an arm bar, but you can get good at making shoulder attachment, controlling posture relative to the floor, and then separating the hands. Those three are all different separate skills that all contribute to finishing an arm lock.
Yeah.
So if you invest time into developing those skills, instead of learning 60 different variations of what an arm bar looks like, you'll get good at arm bars.
I was starting to get it. Basically, they were breaking down all the different skills that made you good at jiu-jitsu and training them with these games. But why start teaching this way? I had to ask the guy in charge, Greg Souders, to find out the answer. What kind of sold you on this approach?
Because I realized there was a problem. I realized that we didn't know how to teach each other. Me as an instructor, I could show moves all day long, but no change is actually happening in the athlete. And I'm like, man, something's wrong. There's all this messy stuff that was going on. But I realized the messy stuff is what grappling actually is. So within all the moves, there are skills hidden inside these moves that we didn't know how to pull out because we didn't know what we were looking at. All we saw were balloon sweeps and butterfly guard and arm locks and kimuras. We didn't see the foundation of grappling. We couldn't see it. So I decided to strip all that away and I tried to see what is at the foundation of this. How small can we go? How simple can we get?
The style of coaching that Greg uses is called the ecological approach.
The ecological approach just spoke to me. I was like, oh, I can apply this. The science was convincing and I started applying it and I saw results almost immediately upon applying it. I was like, oh, this is it.
Competition class was about to start and we were going to find out how Greg used this approach to teach wrestling. Instead of getting shown a sequence on how to finish a single leg, Greg gave us the goal of getting to the end of the leg, then using that to get to the knee and trip out your partner. I suck at wrestling, so this is pretty tough for me. But we're gonna see if I can do this sponsorship before I get taken down. The sponsor of this video is X Marshall. They're the ones who gave me this psychedelic rash guard right here, and they have a whole store full of high quality rash guards. Speaking of high, my ankle is way too high up in the air right now. They have shorts, spats, and gis, but unfortunately, they don't come with takedown defense. I was hoping my colorful rash guard would have some sort of blinding effect on DeAndre, but as you can see here, that's not the case. They sponsor a lot of jiu-jitsu content creators, make it possible for me to travel out to these gyms and make videos about it. So check them out with the link in the description. You can use code JoshRichBJJ for 10% off. Okay, we made it. The wrestling class was tough because there was just such a big skill difference between me and DeAndre, so it made it hard for me to work any of the things Greg wanted us to practice. However, I found that even after the session, I was able to implement the concepts into my game. In another game, we started in the body lock with the goal of splitting the legs or lifting them up so you can get their feet off the ground. Let's just say me and DeAndre's lifts looked a lot different. But I actually found myself able to pull this off in training later despite never drilling it. Maybe this approach is the future. Takedown class was over and I was going to roll with DeAndre, and in this role I was able to see the benefits of training the way they did. One of the rules of this role is that you couldn't pull guard. So I let him take me down Gordon Ryan style, but unfortunately I don't have a guard like Gordon, so DeAndre starts putting on that pressure. Just like the first game, DeAndre stops me from connecting my feet to him. Then, as I try to enter into a leg lock, he pulls my leg and arm away from him and gets chest to chest, like we did in the second game. I had him in my half guard, where we started the third game, but he's able to free his knee and pass. He brings his knee up and goes to high mount. He isolates my arm and gets the tap with the armbar. The roll was halfway done, and after, I'm going to give my verdict on how effective I felt the training was. I know I can't let DeAndre keep putting the pressure on me, so I start entering into a leg lock. I'm able to get a bite this time, but DeAndre counters with a back chase. I let go, then start trying to re-enter into his legs, but DeAndre is able to pull out. I off-balance him, extend his leg out, and grab his hip. I start thinking I might have a chance to take his back here, but DeAndre rolls, looking for mine. I avoid the back take, but DeAndre starts putting on some passing pressure. He starts to look for a leg lock on me, but then he's like, wait, I can just pass this guy's guard, and does that instead. He goes to mount. This time, I'm able to get my arm free, and hands on his hips. I get my feet in between his legs, and hit a kipping escape. And then I start getting deja vu, because he grabs my wrist and ankle again. Bruh. And as I try spazzing out of it, he's able to pull my limbs away and get chest to chest. I get him in a butterfly half guard this time, but he's able to hip switch out of it. Goes to mount, walks my arm up, gets a gift wrap, and takes my back. But I'm able to start turning out. However, he transitions into the arm triangle and is able to get the tap. So now the verdict. I think Standard is solving a major problem in BJJ. Concepts are important to learn, yet in the traditional class model, there's not an effective way to practice these concepts. But in the class I took, we were able to practice concepts like clearing feed and breaking your partner's base. Also, Greg Souders is basing his training off of scientific research, so I could see this type of training being the future of Jiu-Jitsu. If you guys want to learn more about the way they're training, check out their YouTube channel. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe.